Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Mystery Witch School. Welcome to the latest YouTube live. Today we're talking about common questions that people ask about both Wicca and witchcraft. I'll include both of them in there because they often interchange, particularly with people who ask questions about them. So we're going to talk about that today. And as I wait for people to come on, hello Jeb, hello ZX9R, hello Moira, welcome. Do say hello in the chat. And if you want to let me know where you are from in the world, that would be absolutely wonderful. I'm from Australia. You probably noticed from the accent that and it's morning here. And you can also let me know what time of the day it is as well, if you would like to do that. With those of you who are new to the channel, welcome to the channel. There are a lot of videos here on the topic of Wicca and witchcraft, on magic, on tarot, as well as shadow work. Shadow work is a big thing. It's very important, I believe, to the path because it's what helps us create a joyful and happy life. And this whole channel is dedicated to soulful witches and pagans who want to connect to your spiritual roots. You want to connect to your full potential and consciously create your life of the joy, the peace, and the magic without the confusion and without the self-doubt getting in the way. So that's what we do here, and that is also what I do as a part of Mystery Witch School in general. For those of you who are new to Mystery Witch School, you want to know where to start your witchcraft practice, but you just don't know where to begin, I will put a link here in the chat. You can click on the link. It's also in the description field below this video, where you can download a free video called How to Start Your Witchcraft Practice. It just gives you some tips about, well, what it is that witches and Wiccans do, what the difference is, and also where to start and how to pace yourself along the way with your learning in the beginning, because there's a lot to know and you can't learn it all at once. So it helps you know, okay, what am I going to start with, and then how am I going to pace myself over roughly a year. So do download that. There's a link in the description field below this video. There's also super thanks and super chat for anybody who wants to donate to the channel to also help keep Mystery Witch School going. And that's it. I think we'll get into our topic now as more and more people have started to join. Hey, Michaela. And I think that's the only extra person who's joined so far. San Diego, awesome. Florida, okay, it's 12 a.m. Wow, nice and early. Also from Oz, wonderful. Okay, so today we're talking about the most common questions that people ask about witchcraft and also Wicca. And the reason why I include the two together is because Wicca was actually where I started with the whole witchcraft thing, and it's still a big part of the form. I use the Wiccan form to work within because it is quite a good form to work within. Whereas witchcraft is a much more umbrella term that has a lot more different aspects to it. So think of witchcraft as an umbrella term, much the same as pagan is an umbrella term. And there's so many different types of witches and witchcraft out there. Witchcraft is incredibly old and is in pretty much every culture that has ever existed, particularly back in the past. Whereas Wicca itself is considered a religion, and I'll talk about that. And it's relatively new on the scene of religions. So the first question a lot of people will ask is, what is the difference between Wicca and witchcraft? So Wicca is a modern pagan religion. It's pagan because it's not Abrahamic. So any religion that isn't of the Abrahamic three, the big three of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, is considered pagan. So that means the neo-pagan movement, which is often where Wicca falls into, but also the not so new pagan movements as well, or pagan religions such as Buddhism, Hinduism, that kind of thing. Although technically speaking, Buddhism isn't considered a religion. Wicca came about as a religion, and as a result, it carries some of the benefits of a religion and also some of the issues and problems of a religion. And for anybody who's maybe been a part of more of an institutionalized form of Wicca, you probably know what I'm talking about. When you have a religion, you've kind of got to have codes of conduct, and you've got to have certain structures in place, and often there's hierarchies as well. And as time has progressed, they have changed from group to group, but also there's been more institutionalization of those things as well. And that can be very limiting for a lot of people. But one of the positive aspects, I guess, of Wicca being a religion is that back when Gerald Gardner started or brought witchcraft back into the West again, and made it more popular in the West, we really needed to have something that gave witchcraft credibility. Because remember, we're back in the 1950s here, 1960s. We needed to have something that gave us the same rights as other religions and other spiritual traditions had. And right up in Australia, right up until I think it was 2000 in Brisbane, or maybe it was 2002, it was still illegal to practice witchcraft and fortune telling. And I believe in some parts of the Western world, there's still old laws that prohibit you from practicing witchcraft and doing fortune telling and things like that. So having it seen as a religion, and even having it institutionalized by some places, has kind of helped bring us into the world of equality with other religions, and also having those rights, those freedom of religion rights that we wouldn't have had back in the past. So there's definitely some positive aspects there of it being considered a religion. But it doesn't necessarily have to be restricted to a particular religious structure either, because there are many different types of Wicca out there as well. And that it's not just one thing, there's different types of Wicca. Witchcraft, on the other hand, is much broader, as I said. It refers to practices more of the magical arts themselves, rather than it being more of a spiritual thing, or in and of itself. Witchcraft is really about practicing magic, and that's pretty much it. Witchcraft can fit into almost any religion. There are people who are Catholics who call themselves Christian witches because they're practicing witchcraft practices within a Catholic paradigm, or a Catholic cosmology. There's people that practice witchcraft in other religious traditions as well. And really, that's what differentiates it. It's not necessarily a religion. It can be a religion. You can certainly incorporate religious aspects to witchcraft, like introducing deities and working with uh, ritual forms that sort of came out of the Gerald Gardner and Alexander's brand of witchcraft, for sure. And that can be more of a religious connection there, but it doesn't have to be. So it's got a lot more flexibility to it, essentially. So that is the first question. So I'll just go back to awesome. Hi, Ricardo. I set about to do a spell today, realized I'm missing an ingredient. Would you substitute or wait until you get the missing item? It depends what the item is. Substituting is fine. It's totally fine. There's a lot of things you can substitute. It's just understanding the differences between the two, and how what you're substituting will have its own unique aspect to it, its own flavor to it. So it's a bit like when you're cooking and you substitute an ingredient for another ingredient because you don't have all the right ingredients for what it is you're cooking. It's still going to taste good, but it just might taste a little different to how it would have tasted had you used the original ingredient. So it's just knowing what to substitute it with, essentially. Hi, Kimberly. Okay, so that's question number one, just the differences between the two. I've actually got a video called, I don't know what the name of it actually is, but it's on my channel, and it actually explains the differences between Wicca and witchcraft in more depth. It would be in my playlist called New to Wicca or New to Witchcraft, and that's where you can find that video. So the next most common question then is, once people know what the differences are, is, well, how do I start practicing witchcraft? Like, how do I start? How do I get into it? Right? And there's so much information out there, as you know, on YouTube, on Google. There's so many blogs, there's so many different things out there about both Wicca and witchcraft that it can get rather confusing. When I first started, there was no internet. Okay, so I'm giving my vintage away here. But there was no internet when I started. All I had were books and libraries. So I was reading books that were in either esoteric bookstores or in common bookshops, actually, that were starting to produce books on both Wicca and witchcraft. And so I started with the books. I had Raymond Buckland's big blue book. I think it's called The Complete Book of Witchcraft. I just went through that and just went through the lessons as it's outlined in that book. And also Scott Cunningham's work. I went through his Wicca for a Solitary Practitioner books and just did what they recommended in the books. Gave myself a bit of a structure and went from there as I was looking for my first coven. After about, I think, 18 months of doing it myself, I did manage to find a training coven, which was really good. And so then I got the full coven training experience where we had weekly lessons and we got together, of course, and did rituals and practices as a coven. So that was incredibly helpful to actually have people there who could instruct you and be instructed within a group of other people who are also of like mind. And what was wonderful about the first coven was that it was a training coven. It was there specifically there to focus on training people. And so that was pretty awesome. A lot of covens aren't training covens, so it can be a little tricky then when it comes to trying to learn. Maybe you get a mentor. Some of the institutionalized versions of Wicca probably have courses and training programs, I should imagine, because they're more structured and more organized. So that may make it easier there. But it's really just starting with basic research, like you're probably already doing or already did when you first started. Understanding the different types of witchcraft, different cultures, and how they differ. Looking at things that are quite foundational too, such as visualization, being able to concentrate long enough to be able to do a spell. Meditation is really important. Energy work, a basic spell crafting, and you can find so many spells on the internet now using candle magic or sigil magic, whatever magic you want to start with. I think candle magic is always a good place to start. And it's simple and it's also a lot of fun. And keeping some kind of reference, I guess, to your experiences and your learnings, which you can do in a journal. But starting the practice is, again, starting with your research. Download my free video, How to Start Your Witchcraft Practice, because that does give you a structure of where to start. The structure that I give in that video actually comes from my coven experience. So when I give you a rough outline of how to pace yourself over the year, if you were to do it yourself over a year, that's how I started. And it's also based on the course that I do have, the year-long course, the Mystery Witch School 101 Academy, which is my course that actually does show you and teaches you how to start a witchcraft practice, how to actually practice witchcraft. That's the structure that that 12-month course has. And so I've based the free video pretty much on that structure. I found it incredibly helpful to have my own research first, get a little bit of a feel for it, and then when I was ready, I went and looked for a teacher, which was in my first coven. And having a teacher is really very helpful. They can answer your questions, of course, and they can give you they can help pace you or give you that pace where you're not trying to learn everything at once and you can take that time out to really practice things. What I do in the Mystery Witch School 101 Academy, which is a 12-month course, is slow everything down so that you're actually practicing the craft. So you get information and knowledge, but the focus is on, okay, here are the practices, and this is what you're going to practice this month. And so you spend the month doing the meditations, doing what other activities may be there, and then by the next month you're ready to move on to the next level of that thing. And so you're kind of adding scaffold to to your learning and adding things each month at a time, and that's a really great way to learn, and that's how I learned when I was in a coven. So do your research, find out what sort of things suit you. You might find that you chop and change and you like one thing and then you decide you like something else. That's very, very normal. But it's all about researching and then finding something you resonate with and then giving yourself a bit of a structure of how you where you're going to start and how you're going to pace yourself along the way. And if you can find a coven or an online group such as the Mystery Witch School, then that is really helpful too because you've got other people to help you and talk to and show things to, as well as having guidance along the way. Okay, so we've got thank you, ZX9R, for the super chat. Okay, where are I? From Ohio. Awesome. Okay, a wish on a foxtail. I never feel called to cast a circle. I just don't connect to doing it for some reason, even though I've tried tons of different methods. Is it okay to not cast a circle as a Wiccan? Yeah, I would say yes. It's okay to not cast a circle. If you have other ways of creating sacred space, if you have other ways of clearing your space and making it a sacred place for you, then, a circle is something we have in common, I guess, across the board with a lot of modern witchcraft and Wicca. It's something that came out of the Gerald Gardner era, and it's something we teach because it's a good thing. Circles are great. But you don't always need to have a circle. You can actually work without the circle. There are many, many different ways that you can create sacred space, and they're out there to be found on the internet. I have a daily practice that I do that is just creating a circle of light in your space that comes from you. It's not creating a circle, it's creating a sacred space. So that is something that I also teach within Mystery Witch School 101 is how you can set up a daily practice without having to set up a circle every day. And that 5-day course that's included with the Mystery Witch School 101 is also I also have that standalone as well. It's called The Ultimate Guide to Starting a Wiccan Practice That Works, and you'll find that there's a link to where you can find out more about that in the description field below this video if you're wanting to set up a daily practice. But yeah, if you don't resonate with the circle and you have another way or another means of creating that sacred space, then use that. That's quite okay. To me, Wicca is more than just rituals and practices. It's more to do with your connection to the divine and to nature and to yourself. It's the unseen aspect of the practice that's actually the juice of the practice. The rituals, the form is a means to an end. It's structure, which is helpful, but the juice is in the connection between you and the and spirit deities and nature and any other aspects of nature, the elements that you work with. And that connection is really what it is that you're wanting to develop, because that's the juice. That's where the magic is. It's actually not so much in the form itself. The form helps create structure, and there's energy in the form. But what's really important is what's coming from you. And that's what I emphasize a lot in the courses that I teach, is that it's coming from you. You're practicing the craft. And what you do in your practice every day is what's giving you the ability to be able to practice the craft and live that life, be that person, and change your life and create the life as a witch. And it's the practice, and it's you as a person. Okay, before internet, you could say information serendipitously found you because it was meant for you. Yes, that's true. And it did for me when I first came upon, well, actually, it wasn't the first time I'd come upon Wicca and Witchcraft. I'd come upon it through a book that my sister brought home back when I was 14. And I read the book and I enjoyed it, but I didn't really think anything of it. And it wasn't until my sister and I came upon a house that had a carving on the veranda of a woman sitting on top of a cauldron that I remembered the book back when I was 14. And I said to my sister, we have to go to the aquarium bookstore. And I bought my first book on Wicca that day. So it does happen when it's ready to happen. Okay, ZX9, I signed up for 101 and very easy to digest. Awesome. Awesome. Wonderful. Welcome too. Thank you. Thank you, ZX9. I have to find out who you are. What your real name is. Okay, so that is the question number 2. Question number 3 is, what tools do I need to practice the craft? Short answer, you don't actually need any tools to practice magic. The magic really, the real source of magic is actually your imagination, your subconscious mind connecting to the astral, connecting to the field. And if you can do that without needing tools, great. You're going to save yourself a lot of money. But tools can help, and they can also enhance the energy. So the tools that we use in the craft, in the modern craft, in Western witchcraft, and in Wicca particularly, are tools that represent the 4 elements. Because when we're practicing magic, we work with the 4 elements of earth, air, water, and fire. And we have symbols of those elements. We have earth symbolized by the pentacle. Air is symbolized by the athame and the sword. The athame is a dagger. Fire represented by the wand, and water represented by the cup. Now, in some traditions, the wand is actually associated with air, and the swords are associated with the fire. So you will find that in different traditions that may work in different ways, or gain their source of connection to things like the Kabbalah will work differently. But generally speaking, most of the time you're going to see the wand associated with the element of fire, and the sword and the athame associated with the element of air, much the same as you see in the tarot. So they're tools that we use, and we use them when we create a circle. We use them when we're doing our magic. We're using the pentacle, for example. We can use that as a shield. So it can be like a magical shield. If you're doing shielding work, you can place your herbs and your candles and all of your magical paraphernalia, if you're doing a spell, on your pentacle. You can place your talismans on your pentacle. The sword or the athame are often used to carve out in the air energy, such as, so if you're invoking the pentagram, for example, or banishing pentagrams, will often the dagger or the sword, the athame, will be used to draw those pentagrams and to also draw the circle. People can also use the wand to draw the circle as well. That has popped up in a number of different traditions. Some people will draw the circle with a wand, others will use the athame to do the circle. It really depends on the different traditions there. Wands are often there to symbolize invocation. So if you put your wand up to invoke the deities in a circle, for example, and the cup is there to symbolize the fertile waters. And so we often will drink the wine from the cup, for example. It's a container. It's what contains things. So we have those symbols and we work with those symbols. If you're doing water magic, you might also work with the cup, for example. If you're doing fire magic, you might work with the wand. So they're the four main tools that we use. We also use candles for candle magic. We use a lot of bits and pieces of paper for intentions. A lot of people like to work robed, so having a special outfit that you wear when you're doing ritual, when you're doing magic, and that can help put you in the psychological state of knowing that you're now creating sacred space, that you're now working on this particular thing, and it helps give you a sense of being different to your mundane everyday life, and that can really help enhance your connection. Because what it does is it kind of works on the ego and allows the ego to do the switch. And it's important to allow your ego to be on side with you, to try and find ways to bring the ego in on what it is that you're doing. And so costumes and decorations and all those things can actually really help, because the ego loves those things. And so it can just help the ego feel more settled and be more enthusiastic about supporting you in your work. So there's things like that. We use a lot of herbs. We may also use crystals and gemstones too, but that doesn't mean that you have to have those things at all. And it's not universal either. When it comes to witchcraft, it differs from culture to culture. So you're going to have different cultures using different things. But a lot of the common things that you'll find will be a dagger of some sort. There'll be a wand-like instrument, and there may also be a cup or a container or a bowl there. And often you will also find the use of candles as well. Okay, let's see if there's any more comments. Okay. Shane. Hi, Shane. Good. Now I know who you are. Okay. Hi, Grant. I self-initiated back in the 90s, but was practicing sporadically throughout the years. Do I need another initiation to rededicate? Look, it's always helpful to do another initiation to rededicate to your path. I did that when I came back to the path after being away from it for quite a few years. I actually went and did another rededication just to connect me again. It's not necessary again, but from a psychological point of view, it really helped me feel like, yes, I'm back here. I'm dedicated to this again. This is where I am right now. So definitely go ahead and do another rededication, and that might help focus you so that you can be more focused this time and not so sporadic with your practice. Okay. So, number 4, how do I find my magical path or tradition within witchcraft? Or even do I need to work with a coven, for example, as well as part of that? This is something that may take you time to discover. There are lots of different brands of witchcraft out there now, and a lot more than there were back in the 90s when I started out. And it's really just getting to know the different practices of what different types of witches do as to which one's actually going to suit you. And when it comes to covens, again, it might be something that you do for a certain amount of time, and then something that you leave and you don't do anymore. You don't have to join a coven to be a witch or a Wiccan for that matter. There's a lot of solitary Wiccans out there. When I was in my first coven, there were two Wiccans who were solitaries. They had a property um, just outside of Brisbane where they also had their own circle. They used to run workshops and things as trainings. They did a lot of shamanic work as well. And they would often come and join our coven for various different Sabbats in order to be part of a community and part with other people, but they weren't part of our coven. They used to just come and join in on our public rituals. And they were solitary Wiccans, and they practiced Wicca, and they practiced by themselves. And that's very, very common too. So you may find that you may want to search out a coven, or maybe you just want some training with somebody. You may just want to work with something that is a little less formal than a coven or an institution, but still get some training in there and still get an idea of what it is, still get that help that you need. It really, again, depends on you. But if you are looking for a group, I have said this already in, I think, a couple of videos about covens. So I've got videos about covens as well, which are on my playlist. I think it's new to Wicca playlist as well. That just be very, very mindful of the group themselves, the group dynamics, who the leadership is, and always remember to maintain your own sovereignty and your own sense of self so that you don't end up in a dysfunctional group, which does happen everywhere. Not just in the craft, it happens everywhere. So there's different types of witches out there, and I think these days we're getting a little bit too tight in having to put yourself in a box. So a lot of people are putting themselves in a box based on what they really connect with or what they like to specialize in. So you'll find that there's green witches who work very much in with nature and the garden, and are working very much in that kind of connecting to nature on an everyday level. You've got kitchen witches that work a lot of their craft and their magic in the kitchen with their cooking and with all that sort of stuff. You've even got people who call themselves lunar witches because they're working only particularly with the lunar energies. But at the end of the day, all of those things can be incorporated into one witch's lifestyle. You can cook with and do magic with your cooking. You can be and have your own garden and work in the garden, and you can also work with the lunar energies. So that doesn't mean you have to put yourself in a tiny little pigeonhole, or that you've got to tear your hair out trying to figure out what pigeonhole do I fit in. You don't have to fit into a pigeonhole at all. Okay, you don't. You can be a witch that's eclectic. You can be an eclectic Wiccan. So you are somebody who's a bit of a jack of all trades, so to speak. You don't have to pigeonhole yourself. It's just useful to know what these witches do and those witches do, what this group does here and what that group does there. And it just gives you a bit more of a broader idea of what's out there and what it is that you can do. And you can certainly learn a lot from each of those groups, but you don't have to pigeonhole yourself at all. Okay? Just you can be eclectic like me. I don't really pigeonhole myself. I'm pretty eclectic with what I do. Okay. Some people love to be more pigeonholed, like to feel more structured and have a structure. And that's great. If you're a person who likes that and you really connect with that, then that's good for you, but it's not going to necessarily be good for everybody. So that would be my answer to that question. Experiment, see what you like. Don't feel you have to pigeonhole yourself. And you don't necessarily need to find your particular magical path, either or tradition, okay, within witchcraft. You can certainly be flexible. Other questions that I've had people ask me in relation to this is, do you have to actually be a particular religion, or does witchcraft go against religions or belief systems? Again, Wicca itself is technically a religion. So to be Wiccan, that would be what you are. But when it comes to witchcraft, it's not a religion. And as I said at the beginning, you can be any religion and practice witchcraft. Some religions and traditions don't like witchcraft, they are totally against it. And so it might be very difficult to be able to connect the two together because there may be reasons to feel guilt or shame about practicing magic and witchcraft within one of those types of traditions. But as the world opens up more and as we're becoming a little bit more open to magic, I think some religions are becoming, or some people within some religions that may have been dead against it, are starting to embrace their witch nature. And I've certainly had a lot of people, particularly Catholics and Christians, ask me if they can still practice witchcraft as a Catholic or a Christian. And my answer to that would be, well, yeah, why not? There's if anybody here has ever been brought up a Catholic, you'll know what I'm talking about here. I was raised in Catholicism. There is so much witchcraft in Catholicism. It's like there's so much of it there in the ritual and in the type of magic that they do, and they do magic. And their prayers, all sorts of things. There's a lot of magic there in Catholicism. So it's there anyway. I like to pick and mix. Yes, I think picking and mixing can be really helpful. I'd say the Rosicrucians are the SEAL Team 6 Delta Force, Green Berets, Navy SEALs. Oh, yeah. Okay. Hi, Vincent. Vincent says I was late. Pine is a natural source of vitamin C. Pine pollen is the highest source of vitamin C. Oh, okay. Awesome. Okay. Prayer is magic, usually poorly executed, but still magic. Yes, it is. Prayer is magic too. It's probably misunderstood quite prayer, but it is. It is magic. And we often use prayers in our rituals in modern witchcraft and Wicca as well. So prayer is very magical indeed. Law of attraction is magic. Manifestation is magic. It's all witchcraft. Okay. It all is. Vision boards are witchcraft. Intentions. What other things do they do in law of attraction? Scripting. Scripting in law of assumption is where you basically write down what it is that you want as if you've already got it. So you're writing a journal entry like you've just lived that perfect day. And you're writing in detail about that perfect thing. So say, for example, you want a house, a particular house that you want to own in a particular place you want to live. You would get your journal out and you would write in detail how you're now living in that house and all the different things it's got, the furnishings, and how you felt the day you moved in, and do all of that stuff. That's magic. So if you like writing, you can use that type of magic too. All of those things, whether it's lighting candles and chanting or doing sigils or writing or scripting in a journal or doing a vision board, they're all witchcraft. They're all magic. And a lot of people are practicing that these days, whether they believe in spirituality or they believe in this, that, or the other. People are practicing magic. So I think that's a good thing. And I think that's also helped paint witchcraft in a more positive light in the world too, because people can see how the same these things are, and that manifestation and law of attraction aren't so bad. And so therefore a lot of the positive aspects of witchcraft practices aren't so bad either. Okay, so that's, but some religions would say that it's going against belief. And the last question is usually, how do I cast spells, or how do I do such and such type of magic? And again, there's a lot of information out there. What's at the root of magic is being clear in what it is that you want and being able to concentrate long enough to be able to create that reality using your imagination, and being able to feel, and that's what the imagination creates, is the feeling of that already being the case. It's already happened. It's almost like it's in past tense. It's already happened. And so in your imagination, you're living that wish fulfilled. You're looking out the window of that house and you're smelling the salt air from the beach, if it's somewhere along the beach, or you're looking out the window of that house and you're seeing the deer in the woods. Whatever it is, wherever it is you want to live, you use your imagination to be there as if it's already happened. And that is the magic. That is where the magic is. You can certainly use things like herbs and candles and petitions and chants, work with deities to help bless your magic and give you more of a sense of being connected to the divine, which also helps. But it really is about you being in the wish fulfilled and living it as if it's already happened in your imagination. And spells, a spell is the written word. The spell originally means to spell something, means to say something or speak something or write something. So when we're spelling something or using words, those words create a feeling within us when we say them. And it's that feeling that is where the connection is between the subconscious mind and the astral to then manifest what it is that we want in the real world. You also have to be aware that magic has to manifest in the material world. So there has to be a way that the magic can manifest in the material world, which means you also have to take physical action to help the magic come into being. So you may get insights after the spell, you may get opportunities, you may get creative ideas. You may find that through acting on those, that's how the magic will be able to manifest through you. It's not like you can just open your mouth and expect food to just fly into your mouth without having to go and get it and prepare it, or at least even if somebody else has prepared it, you still probably have to pick it up and put it in your mouth, right? Unless somebody's spoon feeding you. It's you do actually have to do things in the real world as well for the magic to manifest. So that's really all spellcrafting is. And then there's so many different ways that you can elaborate on that using tools that you enjoy working with that help put you in that feeling of the wish fulfilled. So that was the main questions. If anybody has any more, please put them in the comments field and also in the chat. I'm just going to go and see what else is here. Okay. Hi, Vincent says, I have never felt so much peaceful feelings walking in the woods. Awesome. What is the difference between law of attraction and law of assumption? Law of assumption sort of started with a writer called Neville Goddard. He was part of the New Thought movement. And the reason he used the law of assumption was because you're assuming that the thing you want is already there, or that you're already in that wish fulfilled. So you assume, you act on an assumption that it's already happened. So that's why it's called law of assumption. Whereas law of attraction kind of, I think where did that come? I don't know where exactly that came out of. I think it was something that existed before Esther Hicks brought it in. It made it so popular. And before then, of course, Rhonda Byrne also brought it in and made it more popular. Law of attraction is kind of saying you're attracting things, which may not necessarily be totally correct in how it works. And sometimes with law of attraction, people get to this kind of, again, this religious thing of everything that happens to you is because you attracted it to you. So if bad things happen to you, therefore you attracted it to you and you've only got yourself to blame. And that can lead to a whole lot of really rigid way of thinking. Whereas law of assumption is more about what you actually have to do. You have to assume that the wish is already fulfilled. You have to assume it's already happened. You have to assume you're in that job. You have to assume you're driving that car. You have to assume you are doing whatever it is that you're doing, or you have to assume you're already with that person. which is much more correct than saying having to attract those things necessarily to you. So that's really the difference. Everything else about the two are exactly the same. They're just the different ways of explaining magic, essentially. Stay away from Ouija boards. You never know who you will contact. I would agree with that. Unless you're skilled with spirits and being able to particularly do banishings and protect yourself, yeah, stay away from Ouija boards, because you may be intending to connect with a particular spirit. A lot of the time, people just want to connect with any old spirit that happens to be around, and that's really where you run into trouble with the Ouija boards, is that you're not being specific about who you're trying to connect with. You're opening the door to any Tom, Dick, or Harry spirit to come in, and you don't want to do that. Thank you, Jeb Garcia. Awesome, thank you. Last night I saw 1111. This morning I saw it again. And right now I just timed this right, 4:44. Oh, wow. Not sure what message is, but everything is divine order. Absolutely. That's totally. That's great. Yeah, there's something there. So I guess it's, if you can um, try and remember what you were thinking or what was being said or what was happening at those times, it might give you a little bit of a crumb as to, or a lead as to what it may be referring to, or if you've been had any questions lately that you've been asking the universe, the answer could definitely be a yes there. So that's awesome, Jeb. Okay, so as I said throughout earlier in the live, if you do want to learn Wicca and Witchcraft with me, the Mystery Witch School 101 course is the place to come. We are definitely a group of soulful witches. We are totally into using witchcraft and Wicca to really connect us to our spiritual roots and to reach our potential. So we're looking at it more as a spiritual path rather than it just being about magic, because it's that connecting to who we are, our true essence, and really taking that deep dive into self, which is what the shadow work is all about, is that way that we actually then can unravel all of the beliefs that we have about ourselves and the world that aren't true and that are stopping us from being able to really be who we came here to be, that are stopping you from being the person that you know yourself to really be, but you're not allowing yourself to be because you may be afraid for some reason, or you may feel shame or guilt or doubt in some way. And also, a lot of us have grown up with religious beliefs and also secular beliefs that were based on religious beliefs originally, or just based on ideologies that also aren't true, and which also may be creating the inability to be able to really express who you truly are in the world and do what you came here to do. So the path that I like to teach is something that mixes the witchcraft practices like energy work, a little bit of shadow work, as well as a lot of meditations, working with the elements, working with circle work, working with the lunar energies, working with various different deities, and also the sabbats and magic in there as well, so that you can actually start to tap into your empowered witch self. So that's a 12-month course. I've put the link in the chat, and there's also a link in the description field below this video for how you can join that as well. Okay, so blessed be everyone. May you have a wonderful week. This is a crazy astrological week, particularly around the 19th and the 20th. We had that conjunction with the Sun and Pluto, and a lot of some other things going on astrologically as well that has never happened in recorded history before. So we really have switched now into a totally new energy, and it's really the time now to really connect with who you really, really are, so that you can move through this life as a sovereign being and not get pulled into all of the crazy manipulation that's out there in the world at the moment, kind of battling for battling for energy, I guess, people's energy. So now is definitely the time to connect with yourself and your spirituality. So thank you, everyone. And we will see you next week. So blessed day.